Hi, I'm Penny, this is Penelope's Pitstop, and in this issue we're going to be connecting the right hand to the right arm. Welcome to issue 24, and in this issue we're going to be connecting the right hand to the right arm, but as usual let's go through the part list first. So we have the part 1, the right shoulder plate. Part 2 is the right hand ball joint A, and part 24.3 is the right hand ball joint B. Part 4 is a set of screws, and they are the right hand muscle connectors, and then we have 2 sets of screws. We have 5, which is 2x KB 2x6mm screws, and part 6 is 2x PM 2x6mm screws. So let's have a look at step 1. Take the 2 halves of the ball joint 24.2 and 24.3, check how the parts fit together, and let's also look at step 2. Use a PB 2x6mm screw to fix the parts together. A PB screw has a pan head, whereas a KB screw used in step 4 appears smaller and has a countersunk sunk head. So we'll take these 2 pieces. This is piece 2 and piece 3, and I can't get them out because my fingers are quite big. So basically what these are is a ball joint, but they're 2 halves, and then we will need 1 screw. So as you can see, they've put the screws all in one bag. So what I'm going to do is find my craft knife. I'll just pop those on the table, and I've been filming for about 2 minutes and my table is a complete mess already. So it says PB has a pan head, whereas a KB has a smaller head countersunk. So that's the countersunk there. So we need to put those to one side. I've got the really bad focus on, I do apologise guys. Right, so this is the pan head, this is the spare pan head, and this is the spare countersunk. So we take a pan head, we place these 2 pieces together. Oh, they're so shiny I can't actually pick them up. Right, so that's plastic, but it looks a really good finish. So what we'll do is we will pop that screw into there, and we will just screw that in, and it doesn't want to go in. Right, so what I've done there, I did slip a little bit, but I just popped the screw in and I just screwed it a little bit, and then I've just readjusted this so we can now finish screwing that in. And beware, these are plastic pieces, so we don't want to over tighten. You see there I can get that open, so that's not tight enough. Right, there we go, and that's not coming apart, so that's absolutely fine. So step 3, take the hand assembly from stage 15, identify the fixing point for the large ball joint 24.2, 24.3. At the base of the hand 8.1, fit the peg on the ball joint into the fixing point. Then step 4, screw the ball joint in place from the inside of the hand assembly using a KB 2x6mm countersunk screw. And then step 5, this shows the ball joint fixed in place. So this beautiful hand we need, and sorry, I'm really not happy with the focus today, sorry about that. So this is going to go into place there. Is it going to go in place? There we go. Is that shaped? Yeah, so I don't know if you can see that, it's got a little, it's a circle with a little flat piece on it. So what we need to do is just place that over the top and just twist it until it will fall into place, and then that's where it's going to go. So obviously now we need to let's just come out. So we need to get a screwdriver into there, because we need to do it from this side. You see these fingers are in the way, so all we need to do is just move these fingers back. Obviously that doesn't look a very good position for his hand, and we just make sure we can get the screwdriver in there, which we can. So I'm going to load my screwdriver up with the screw, and then we just place that back on there again, and I'll just place the screw in just enough for a bite, and we need to really push this ball joint down, because when the pressure of you screwing is just going to push it up. Once you've got it a certain distance in there, although it's a little bit loose, it's not going to pop up. So now we can let go of it, and then we can tighten that in, and that is perfect. So I'll move his fingers back so he gets a bit of pain relief, and that's up to stage 5 done. So let's have a look at stage 6. Take the upper arm assembly from stage 16, identify the large socket circled in blue and 3 smaller sockets circled in red, which will fit onto the balls on the base of the hand assembly. And then that will take us into step 7. Fit the large socket on the lower arm 12-2 over the ball joint on the base of the hand. This is a push fit connection that needs firm force to join the parts together. Take care and make sure the parts are fully supported whilst this is done. For additional strength on the ball joint, apply a small amount of super glue before you screw it home in stage 4. So they've told us in step 7 to glue in the part on step 4 after we've done it, which I think is a little bit backwards, but what I'll do is I will carry on as I have been, but if I feel it needs a bit more support, then I can always go back to it, because that's only screwed in at the moment. So we take the upper arm, and you see there we've got 1 large socket, 3 smaller ones, and we've got 4 springs. Now I have had a little bit of a look ahead on the springs, and I just want to make sure I keep these in order. So placing this roughly in the orientation it should go, we push that into there like so, and then we can place the smaller ones in. Now these move quite freely. You can see you can move them down to too far, or you can move them back to not quite far enough. So what I would advise is perhaps put the middle one in, and we'll just bring that to meet, and then we can do either side and then do the last one, and there we go. We have, it doesn't move a hell of a lot, but it moves enough, and I don't think it's totally unrealistic, but yeah, I'm okay with that. I'm absolutely fine with that. So that is step 7 done. So step 8, with the larger ball and socket connected, turn the assembly over and adjust the length of the 3 smaller socket arms so that you can fit them over the smaller balls on the base of the hand. These are push fit connections, so I may have just jumped a little bit ahead there, but that's step 8. And then step 9, with the ball and socket joints assembled, thread the muscle springs 12-4 through the 4 remaining holes in the base of the hand 8-1. Take care to keep the muscle springs in line so that they do not cross over each other. So I did have a look at this earlier on, and you see how I've separated the springs into 2, and I think that's the best way to deal with it. So we take 2 of them, one side or the other, and we'll just bring those out. Doesn't matter how we bring them out, perhaps a pair of tweezers, and we make sure we've got them in order. Now I'm going to work in the middle and work out. So if you can see the little hole there, just there, all we're going to do is we're going to take this spring and we're going to thread it through. Don't worry about any other springs for the moment. So there you go, that spring has now been pushed through. See it there? So now we can take this second one. Now this is going to be slightly harder because it's a little bit out of the way. It's just down there. So see if we can manipulate it by hand, which in this case I can. But if you can't manipulate it by hand, perhaps use a pair of tweezers. So check that the springs are still in the correct way. So look at the springs there, follow them along, and they're fine. So we take these two now, and I'm going to push this one up and through, so I can see that is definitely the second one. So that's going to go through that hole down there, just in there like that. Voila, Bob's your uncle. And then lastly, the fourth hole is down there. It's very hard to see, especially with its focus on this camera, and that will just thread through like so. So say if you have a bit of trouble, perhaps you consider using a pair of tweezers. So I'm just going to pull these springs, just make sure they're through properly, and there we go. I don't know if you can see those springs there, but they're in absolutely fine. And one, 2, 3, 4. So step 8, cut the 4 connector pins 24/4 from the plastic frame, making sure that you include the long pegs at the base of the connectors and smooth any rough edges. So this is the 4 connectors, and I'll just bring my focus in a little bit. And hopefully, there we go, you can get a really good look then. So you need to cut, let me get my knife out. So you need to cut there and there, and then that will give you, sorry, that's wrong. Right, you actually need to cut there. Can you see that you've got the long connector there? So you're cutting like that. So I'm going to use my snips. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to cut the middle piece out first, and that will give us the ends. I think once we cut away the pieces that are obviously not needed, it then makes the rest of it easier to deal with. So I'll turn that over, and it's those pegs there. So what I will do is I will cut, in fact let's cut away the whole frame. It's very, very hard to describe. Right, so there we go, that's a bit easier that way, isn't it? So let's just keep cutting in towards it, and then there we go, that's what you're, no, I was right the first time. Right, okay, but that's fine, because what we've done there, we actually want to cut it like that. So we were being overcautious there. That's what you're going to end up with, and that's what we thought we needed. So if we'd have cut, just put this, I'm going to pop this back in the tray. So if we'd have cut there, but we actually needed that bit, we would have had problems. But because we were cutting too long, that's fine, we can always reduce it. So I'm just going to cut these 4 off. So there's number 3, and there's number 4. Right, so now I'm going to do a test fit, but step 11 is take the first connector 24-4 and apply a tiny drop of super glue to the sides of the long round peg. And then step 12, fit the connector peg 24-4 into one of the spring muscles, turning it clockwise so that it fits snugly into the end of the spring, indicated by the blue arrow. Repeat steps 11 and 12 to fit all 4 connectors into the ends of the spring muscles. So let's do a dry fit first. We always dry fit, and I would suggest perhaps starting with the easy one. So I'm going to give myself as much room as I can to play with. I'm actually going to pull this whole spring out, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this spring onto there like that, and I see exactly what they mean. They actually, you can twist it on. So that's what we will end up with. You'll end up with a spring with a little nobule on it. So oops, I didn't mean to let go of that. So I'll do that again as a dry fit. So we pop it on, push the spring on as much as we can, and then we will twist that like we're screwing it on. And what that will do is just open up the spring a little bit, and then once you let go it will spring back down. So I'm going to do this, I'm going to do all of them speeded up because you don't need to see me do this that many times. And I'm going to use the other glue that I normally use. It has a very quick set time, so I would suggest you use one that isn't super quick. That will just give you a little bit more time to screw it on. So yeah, I will speak to you shortly. I'm just going to crack on and get these done. Okay, so that was extremely hard actually. What happened was when I put this, didn't want to go in once it was glued, so I decided to just change my tactic, and I pushed it in and then just applied a little bit of glue over the top, and I've just left it for about 10 minutes to dry, and that should be okay now. So I'll just give it a test pull, and that's more than enough pull there. So let's go on to stage 14. Fix the peg into the socket. You will need to hold it firmly in place until the glue has dried. Repeat steps 13 and 14 to fit all the connectors. And I actually missed out step 13. So check that the rectangular pegs on the ends of the connector fit into the rectangular sockets in the hand 8-1 at the base of the 4 fingers. You will need to stretch the spring muscle slightly in order to do this. If necessary, use a fine file to enlarge the rectangle sockets. Working on one connector at the time, apply a little super glue in the rectangular socket. So we'll do a test fit first, and what we're dealing with is right, so we've got a socket there. Let me use a screwdriver. One there, one there, one there, and one there, and these connectors are going to fit into them like that, just like that. So we test fit each one individually, and it would help if I had the correct glasses on. So that one fits in, doesn't fit in, that fits in fine, as you can see. Second one fits in, might just have to pull the fingers back just to give myself more space to work. In fact, let's try tweezers. So pull it out, bring the tweezers in behind, and then yep, that fits in fine. And then we'll grab this one from behind, that fits in perfect. And this one, you might need to twist them a little bit. That one fits in fine. So I'm going to work from one end to the other. Little dab of super glue into the socket, not onto the peg. And what I'm finding with this glue is there seems to be quite a lot of excess. I said in another episode that actually I'm actually going to use a cocktail stick method. I think that will be a lot safer. So let's bring out the new pot of glue. I should have had this ready, which I haven't. So I'm going to be using my super glue gel. So we need a spare piece of container. So I thought I had the top for this, so let's pop, this is the other piece from this part, we'll put that to one side. I'll just use a piece of container, give this a really good shake. This super glue gel, I think it's made up of 2 different substances, and when it separates really easily, and once it separates it doesn't actually stick very well. You rectify that simply by giving it a really good shake, and if it comes out like a jelly, I don't know if you can see there, it holds its shape, then you know it's going to work fine. So you'll have a little bit of working time if it's not actually anything. This is more of a contact glue. So a little bit on the cocktail stick, into the hole, and this will actually bond very quickly. It says on the bottle 10 seconds. Sometimes you don't even need that. So bring the spring out, get a good hold with the tweezers. That wasn't a good enough hold, and pop it into the hole, let go of the tweezers, push down with your fingers, count to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and look at that, that is perfect. So that's the spring in place. That's basically what we've got. We see we've got these springs coming down, and then this 4th one comes straight across for the little finger. So let's give that last one a little check, because we don't want it popping out at a later stage. And that's coming out, that's not coming out, sorry. So that is step 14 complete, and yeah, I'm happy with that. So as you see, that these springs aren't really tight. I think they're more show than anything else. As you see, when you move the finger or the arm, it's not really putting much force on the spring, and it's certainly not putting enough force to bring it back. So I think it's a little bit more for effect than anything, but it does look really good. I think it does add something to the arm. So that's it then, guys. So let's have a look at the stage complete, and then you should see on the right the picture of the magazine. And I'm just going to try, and I'm going to switch the light off. I'm going to try and bring the hand into roughly the same position. There we go, that's roughly the same position, and then comparing it to there, you can see that it does look the same. So that's it for this stage then.